My name is Brian Kajajian. I am the editor-in-chief of ClassicRockHistory.com. Today, I'm very happy to have a chance to chat with Mr. Classic Rock himself, Chris Slade, who has a
Hi.
Hey, Chris. Chris Slade has a brand new album coming out with his band called the Chris Slade Timeline, right?
Timeline, yep.
Yeah, and the new album is called Timescape. It's out on Brave New World Records. Brave World Records. Oh, they're gonna be mad at me. Doesn't like screwing up the record company.
You know, they should change the name. Everybody keeps trying to say Brave Worlds.
Yeah, I mean,
it's funny.
I think I said Brave New World, and then I said Brave World, but it's Brave Words. Brave Words Records. Okay, sorry about that, people at the record company. But anyway, it's coming out on July 19th, and we're going to talk about that album. But you know what? First, I have a legend here with me, Chris Slade, and I'd love to talk to you, Chris, about your career and your origins. And first of all, I have to thank you for, taking the time out of your probably very busy day to speak with us here at Classic Rock History.
Not at all. I enjoy it.
So you're in London, right?
Yep. Yeah. Well, England anyway.
Oh, England.
Not London, but
okay. Well, what part of England are you in?
Kent, which is sort of the southeast corner, the bit closest to France.
Ah, sure. So it's a shorter ride over to France from.
Yeah, we do it all the time. The band, we do it all the time on the ferry to go to France, Germany, Italy, whatever. It all starts from Calais, Dover to Calais in Kent, Dover in Kent to Calais in France.
How long of a ferry ride is it?
Not long, but hour and a half.
Well, that's not too bad.
But you got to wait an hour either side because of just queuing and just getting in line and all that stuff. So the ferry itself is not far at all.
Sure.
It's all the rubbish that goes with it, all the visas and everything else that goes along with it.
Right.
And tickets and.
You're going from one country to another, so.
Yeah, it's pretty good these days. It was terrible during COVID. And they're talking about bringing new stuff in now, new visas, where you can't stay more in any country for more than 30 days, I think.
Okay.
So, it's going to get tighter and tighter, I'm afraid. It seems that way anyway. I hope it doesn't. There were times where we could just walk into the place. It was like when Britain was in the EU or the European Union, along with France, Germany, and Italy, and all the rest of them, you could just go over there, no problem at all. You could go live there if you wanted, but for a few years now, a couple of years, it's been restricted. We've left the European Union in the UK, and we are on our own, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, that's a whole other topic right there, because there were many who didn't want to do that.
How many days have you got?
Yeah. Well, I remember I was in London in 2018, and I think that was kind of just before it happened. I'm not sure exactly. When did you leave the Union? Was it like 2019?
I don't know.
It's around that time. I saw a lot of protests going on.
Yeah. A lot of people were happy about it. Some people were. They asked the Prime Minister if he'd allow creative people, musicians, dancers, all sorts, because he could have negotiated. If he would allow, this was Boris Johnson, the Prime Minister at the time.
Yeah. If
he would allow creatives, if you like, give them a broad term, to be able to travel with impunity. And he said, "Don't be so ridiculous."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Boy.
It used to be with America, it was one for one. In other words, one American for one Brit. And that worked really well. That was in the 60s, 70s. But that don't happen anymore.
What do you mean by that? One American for one Brit. I'm not following you.
Well, I could exchange things.
Oh, okay.
If an American musician came here, which they do all the time, by the way, they're allowed to, and Britain goes to America, that was fine, as long as you had one for one. You know, you weren't taking any American's job, and he wasn't taking your job.
Got it.
But that changed a long time ago, I think.
So,
which is a great shame.
Yeah.
Because I'm okay. I've got a green card, but the band doesn't, unfortunately.
So it makes it difficult to tour, I guess, then.
Yeah, in the States, yes. And people have been posting up online and having all sorts of horror problems with them. Their visas coming in about 2 months after the date ended. So it was, it's becoming awkward to tour anywhere. It's going to become awkward to tour anyway without prior visas,
Yeah,
which is a great shame. Great shame for music.
Fans understand that's a big issue.
No, I get all the time. Why don't you come to Poland, which you've just come back from, actually, a few months ago? Look there. People don't understand. You've got to have an invitation to go from a promoter. You can't just go, oh, I'm going to go to Poland tomorrow. Okay, are you ready? We've got gigs in, all over the place. Anybody going to show up? It don't work like that. You've got to, and people have asked me in the past too, well, why did you do that band when you did that band? Why didn't you join Led Zeppelin? Honestly, that's been said to me more than once.
Asked why you didn't join Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean,
yeah, it shows you how people, their idea of how the music business works.
Yeah.
Or any business really.
Well, it comes, fans are very passionate, and
of course they are.
Emotion Yeah, emotion takes over. That's the problem. As someone who runs a big rock site and writes a lot about rock and roll music, I have my share of comments, about anything that I write about. And you have to take it with a grain of salt because people are just
of course.
They're very emotional and they're very passionate and very, very possessive too about their bands.
Of course they are. And especially AC/DC ones.
Yeah, that's right. Because now you're the new kid on the block, right? When you joined AC/DC.
Brian Johnson is still the new kid on the block, and he's been there 50 years. Honestly, he's still the new guy.
Yeah.
He'll never be as good as Bon. Whether he is or not, he is Brian, and he sings the way he sings. Bon sings the way he sings. If you can't get used to 50 years, guys, wow. Come on, straighten up a bit.
How do you deal with that as a musician who's taken over the role of someone who's very loved and has a huge fan base? How do you deal with the people who, aren't as welcoming to you?
You can't deal with it. All you can be is yourself and be honest, and play or sing or how you play, or the way you interpret that style of playing. Whether you're a guitarist or singer or whatever, you've just got to fit in as best you can. And I've tried to do that all my life, actually. I've had to. Playing with the Firm is completely different to playing with AC/DC or Manfred Mann's Earth Band. I'm very pleased that I have the technique in order to do that. And I started with Tom Jones, as you know.
Yes.
In 1963. And thankfully, I started on drums with jazz, listening to jazz, because there were no drummers in the 50s in pop music. Well, there was hardly pop music, actually. But there were no drummers to listen to. And so I started listening to Buddy Rich and people like that, Gene Cooper,
I've talked to a lot of drummers. I think it was a week ago. I talked with Carmine Apiece, and he had said
Oh yeah,
he said how influential, that Buddy Rich was on his career, and Gene Krupa.
absolutely. Yeah, they were the giants
Yeah,
that we all aspired to. Carmine, myself, many others. Cozy Powell was one of them too. He was a big Buddy Rich fan.
yeah. Pretty much any
Yeah.
drummer that I've ever worked with always mentions Buddy Rich. What was it about Buddy Rich that inspires so many drummers?
Just incredible. Probably way beyond his years, way beyond his time, shall I say, before his time. Um, his playing was absolutely superb. He had a crisp sound, unlike Gene Krupa, who was a bit muddy at the bottom end, I think, But that was the recording process at the time,
Sure.
and the way you tuned the drums. So Buddy was just unbelievable, head and shoulders above anybody else in the world, in my opinion. And there've been some great drummers, contemporaries of his too. But Buddy Rich, you couldn't stop him. He was like a wind-up doll, once he got going. And it was tasteful too. It wasn't just fast and, he played
He was a real
phrasing.
showman too. I mean,
He was, yeah. All the drummers were in those days. I think it lends itself to being a showman. It's like I'm sitting down at the back. I'm over here, guys.
Yeah.
There's a bit of that in it too. Look at me.
Yeah, it's like,
what do you think I'm doing up here?
it's like being a keyboard player too. You kind of get stuck behind something.
Yeah.
And that lead singer is always getting all the attention, and the flashy guitar player.
Of course, they always think the lead singer is the leader of the band. Always.
Yeah.
No matter if it's a harmonica player, the singer's the leader of the band as far as the public are concerned, which is not always the case. Look at AC/DC.
Of course, yeah.
And when you say about keyboard players, our keyboard player also plays guitar. So he comes out from behind the mass of black and white sometimes.
Yeah, I remember in the 80s, I had brought one of those remote keyboards. It was during when MIDI first came out.
And yeah, I know.
In the middle of a set, the thing would just jam up. It would just freeze, and it was horrible.
Oh, really?
Yeah, MIDI wasn't the greatest thing in the world. Those notes a lot. But yeah, I think everybody wants to always get the chance to run out front.
Yeah. I remember it must have been the early 80s. I was in Uriah Heep for a couple of years, and the keyboard player there, Greg Deckard, a Canadian guy, had one of those that you could move around with. I don't think he's up to much. He didn't admit to it, put it that way.
Yeah, it's hard to play as a keyboard player. It's a very difficult transition to go from playing like this.
Yeah,
it's just not normal. And
I can see what you mean.
Yeah, it's more of
it actually looks exciting though.
Sure.
Or it looks more exciting, shall I say, than a flat keyboard.
Yeah,
but it makes you more accessible, as you said, to the public. They like to see you get out from behind those keyboards. Yeah, that's why I remember Jeff Downes also in Asia. When I was in Asia, he played sideways on, so that there was a gap in the front of the keyboards, and I think he had about 6 keyboards stacked up like Rick Wakeman,
Sure.
And they were all around him, but people could see what he was playing, which is a much better setup than right in front of you.
Yeah, I think all keyboard players, they try to play so the keyboards are facing the band and their side is to the audience so that people can see you as a keyboard.
Right.
As a drummer, you can't do that. Right?
No, well, you can. I've always wanted to do a revolving drum thing, actually. So, I think it was Godsmacked when they had two drummers and they were moving around the stage, and that concept was really good, I think.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean, you're pretty innovative in what you do already.
Not for the guy underneath, by the way, moving it.
Yeah, I mean, from a technical standpoint, creating a drum kit that moves and spins, that's gonna raise the budget a little, I guess, huh? On a tour.
Yeah, it's got to be a stadium show to do that.
Yeah. But there are guys, I've seen over the years that, the drum set is like 10 feet above everybody else.
Yeah, I don't like that, to be honest. I did that with the firm for a while.
Really? And raise up high.
Yeah, about 10 feet off the stage. I didn't like it at all because I was detached from the band, Sure. I like to be in the band,
Of course.
Playing with them, not them listening to monitors or me playing. And it's very difficult to interact with if your drummer's 10 foot in the air, Are you excited by this? Come on, Jungle Jiggers. I can see. Yeah, man, yeah. It don't come across with me when you're 10 foot in the air,
Yeah, because there's that connection, especially with your bassist, right? Your bass player. I mean, you two guys, I guess in any band, the drummer and the bass player, I mean, that connection.
Yeah, that's the engine house, really.
Yeah. That's the true rhythm section.
If that don't click, nothing works. If that don't click, I don't care what band it is. Bass player and drummer slightly divorced.
Yeah.
Band don't work.
Yeah. I mean, can you remember the first band you ever were in where you just said, yeah, this bass player, me and him, it just works. It just feels good.
I believe it was Manfred Mann's Earth Band, actually.
Okay.
There was Tom Jones before that, which were all different bass players. Or at least they changed around a lot, put it that way.
Let's talk about. Okay, go ahead. I don't mean to cut you off. What other bass players did you?
No, but Colin Patton and myself, who's the Earth Band bass player, we just hit it off rhythmically, musically.
Yeah.
And we played together for what? I think maybe 5 years, something like that. So, we had a good partnership. We're still friends. So, and we were Scorpios. So
I think
maybe that's something to do with it.
Well, yeah, you know what? I think, in any group that I've ever been in, in the clubs and on the road, you always kind of find your soul brother in the band. There's always that one person that you kind of really click with sometimes, where you wind up hanging out with even when you're not playing. Have you had that before? Would you say?
It's happened a few times. I'm not a great one to keep in touch with anybody, really. And, my friends know that. It's like, oh, happy birthday, man. Oh, that was 2 years ago. Oh, then you have one every year? Yeah, but you weren't around last year.
Well, why is that? Why aren't you a great one to keep in touch with? Is that by chance?
I have no idea. It's just the way I am.
Okay.
A lot of people think I'm dead.
Well, that's not good. That's why it's good to do video interviews like this.
Yes, definitely.
I think that's just the way some people are, though.
Yeah, Carmine is the opposite to me. Carmine Appice, because he just talks all the time.
Oh, he's a real character.
But he's a great self-publicist.
Yes,
and I'm not.
Yes.
I've known him for many, many years, by the way. Or we've known each other, shall I say. I think he lives in Florida. I'm not sure about that.
He's in Florida, but he's from Brooklyn. I'm from the Bronx. He's from Brooklyn.
Yeah, I know he's New York. Yeah.
Yeah, and when it was a Brooklyn guy and a Bronx guy interviewing, it was kind of amusing. But I asked him if he missed New York, and he just said no. I said, come on.
It snows in the winter.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, he is great at self-promoting. In fact, I think it got him kicked out of Ozzy's band because of that. because he was doing so much of it.
Some people have that knack of just self-promotion, and I never had that, And it's only lately that I'm able to chat quite happily with anybody about anything. Whereas before I was sort of a little bit inhibited, I think.
Well, do you think that's being a sideman kind of, fuels
maybe? Yeah, it could be. It could be. I've never thought about it because I try to do what comes naturally all the time. I have all my life. And this seems very natural now, to be able to just chat away. Whereas I think before I was afraid of talking for a start. I thought that was for stars, really I did.
Sure.
And I didn't have much to say about anything.
But you know what? It's also kind of the way I think a lot of side men are treated in the business. When you're in a band with huge stars, and I mean, look, you were in your first band was what? With Tom Jones. I mean,
yeah, before he was with Tom Jones.
Before he was Tom Jones.
Before he was Tom Jones.
Sure.
Before he changed his name to Jones.
What was his original name?
And after he changed his name.
But so
his original name is Tommy Woodward.
Yeah, that doesn't work as well as Tom Jones, does it?
No, it doesn't have the same sort of ring. Yeah.
Tom Jones is just perfect. Who came up with Tom Jones? Did he come up with that?
Yeah, it's his middle name, I think.
Oh, look at that.
Okay. His mother's maiden name. I mean, I took Slade, actually. That's my middle name. Slade is my middle name. Rees is my last name, R-E-E-S.
Okay.
Tom and I are both from the same village in South Wales. Yes. I didn't know him before I worked with him. My brother did, my father did, but I didn't. And my father was a tap dancer and singer. And Tom used to go and sit in with his, what was known in those days, concert party.
What was your father's name?
Danny.
Danny.
My brother's name is also Danny.
So Danny Rees was your father?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Tap dancer and singer.
And your brother Danny too?
Yeah, and he taught me drums to start with. My brother Danny.
So what's a concert party? What exactly is that?
Concert party is a group of people, don't forget, after the First World War, who used to go around all the working men's clubs and places, anywhere they would have music or entertainment, dance halls, whatever it was, and do a show. And my father was a tap dancer and singer. They had a tenor, they had a comedian, piano player, a few other people. And Tommy Woodward used to go and sit in with them, and sing the modern stuff like Ghost Riders in the Sky.
Yeah.
The real modern stuff,
And this is after World War II, correct?
Yeah, not one, because although I was there through one, but...
No, you weren't there through. World War I's like 1915, 1918. That's too long ago. You weren't around then. But
No,
but World War II is...
I always make jokes about my age, about...
World War II is 1939 to 1945, so... Yeah, so you're talking the 50s now, right? This is when you're
that's when I grew up with like Elvis Presley and that, because my brother is 8 years older than me, and he had an older record collection, and they were records, wax records, not even vinyl yet, and Pat Boone, Elvis Presley, Jerry Lee Lewis, stuff like that.
That's when they were 78s, right? That's what you mean?
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
They would break if you dropped them.
They were 12. They were 12-inch, and they were very brittle. Yes.
Yeah, I've broken many of them.
That's what I mean when I say I've broken many records.
Yeah. I think there's probably a huge part of the population that has never seen what a 78 record looked like.
No, there was a sketch on TV the other night. Guy goes into a store and he goes, "I'd like to buy a phonogram, please." a gramophone,
Yeah.
please. And I go, oh, Granddad, I don't know if you're in the right place here. Do you want some woofers? Well, oh, yes, I want woofers. With like a bag in your head. Yeah, have a bag in your head.
Oh, boy. That's pretty funny. Yeah, those
A
original.
gramophone. I'd like to buy a gramophone.
Yes. I mean, RCA Records kept a picture of that with a dog, I think, right? For years as on their label. The original,
HMV.
yeah, okay. The original gramophone with that big giant wide
Yeah,
speaker.
yeah. Well, that was HMV because it was his master's voice.
Okay.
And it told a true story, actually. They recorded his master's voice on a record and played it out of the speaker. And I think the dog was called Nipper, actually. And he was sitting there enthralled by this voice coming out of this horn thing.
Look at that.
And that's where HMV started, if you like, his master's voice, HMV.
Wow. I never knew that.
Yeah.
And I never knew the dog's name was Nipper.
Well, I'm not certain of that, but I think it was. I think if you just have a Google, you'll find out it is.
Wow. And the needles on those record players, I mean, you could break a wall down with those needles. They were real thick needles.
I was a bit, I was showing my age a bit. I was about 50, and I went into Oxford Street in London, which is the main shopping thing, bit like Rodeo Drive, you know. And funny enough, I went into HMV shop that sold, it was more CDs then, of course. I was about 50, about 20 years ago, something like that. And so I said, and I always wanted to, I like the sound of vinyl, right? And it has a lot more depth than CDs have, or richness, whatever you call it. And I said, could I buy a needle here for a gramophone?
Oh, boy.
And he went, this guy, assistant, went, what's that?
Yeah, of course.
And it's like, you know, I felt about 95, never mind.
A little bit older.
Yeah. So I was just like that guy going in trying to buy a gramophone, you know?
Well, now the problem is you have these, 12-year-old, 14-year-old kids that don't even know what a CD is. And that.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
It's so strange.
Yeah.
And that was like the big thing. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
You've met the future now. It's called a CD. What's a CD? It's amazing how things.
Do you remember the first CD you ever heard?
No, I don't, to be honest.
Because I remember the first CD I ever heard was Springsteen's Born in the USA. And
the
first thing that hit me was the sound of the kick drum. Because I never heard a kick drum cut like that before the stereo system. And I think CDs, they had this, this huge frequency response that vinyl could not reproduce. The problem was they didn't always master CDs well. And I think that was one of the big issues.
Yeah. And they tried to use digital equipment too to record, and that didn't work for years.
Yeah.
I remember Sony bringing it out, and I said, what's happened to the drums? Well, nothing. I said, it's got no balls. There's no balls there at all. There was no guts in the drums at all. And that was due to the equipment they were trying to use. And Sony did it first. They've improved it now. It's just, I think it's tremendous now.
Yeah, because the sound of the drum, a great record is not going to sound good if the drums don't sound good. I mean, that's my opinion. And I think that's the opinion of a lot of people. How about yours? I mean,
well, yes, it starts from there. I know that a lot of bass players wait for the drummer to start before they start playing because they're not quite sure where the beat lies, until the drummer goes boom, bap, boom, bap.
Right.
It's not always the case. And I cut a long story short, I had a jam with Jaco Pastorius once in a club in New York City.
Yeah.
And Brecker Brothers owned it, I think. And it was like, oh, get up here. So I got up and started. And I just sat there. The kit was set up, but his drummer hadn't showed up. So we just standing there looking at each other. And he went, okay, you start. And it's like, gosh, thanks, Jaco. Great, mate. No pressure. Uh-huh. And so I started ting, ting to ting, and he just went straight in. And it was magical, actually, because of him, of course. And I tried to follow, or I did follow, and I came up with some. We were well in it then. We jammed for about 20, 25 minutes, I think.
Okay.
And that was just because he's my hero as far as bass players are concerned, and a lot of other people, of course, as well.
Oh yeah, Jaco was. That must have been a thrill to play with Jaco. I mean,
it was an incredible thrill. I came off the stage, and the audience was so hyped up with what we were doing. Guys were coming up and kissing me. You know? Honest to God,
they wanted.
I couldn't believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were like, oh, that was amazing, and it wouldn't have happened if I hadn't thought to myself, took my life in my hands and gone, do you want to play, Jaco? I'm with Jimmy Page here tonight. Oh, he said, get up here.
Oh, look at that.
Because his band just hadn't shown, and it's supposed to be on an hour ago or something. And I thought,
so that was mid-'80s, I guess, when that happened.
And he was sitting, yes, it must have been. I'm trying to think. Yeah, 85, 86. Yeah, the firm.
Okay, sure.
So I'm Franklin, myself, and Pagey went to this club downtown, and specifically to see Jaco, because it was advertised he was on, and the place was jammed, and nobody filmed that jam that I did.
Oh, so
they filmed Jimmy Page. They filmed Jimmy Page afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah, they said to me, "Do you want to play drums?" And I went, "No, I've been playing now. Your drummer's shown up now. Let him do it." Which was stupid of me. I should have just stayed there.
Sure. So there's no audio recording or video recording of that.
I don't think there is. I'm still in hope that somebody will say, "Hey, there's it's there. It's on YouTube or whatever." But
nobody had cell phones back then.
No, very few.
I mean, I remember in the 80s being on stage and recording gigs sometimes with a little cassette recorder. That was it. That's all you had to record.
Right. Yeah.
In the 80s, it was just basically a portable cassette recorder. I mean, there were video cameras, but they were usually really huge, and people didn't.
They were massive, and they should use them on their shoulders, didn't they?
Yeah, because they put a VHS tape in them. I mean, they were using this giant VHS tape in the original, portable video recorders. It was before the smaller tapes came out. So the cameras themselves were huge, and people didn't go to clubs or you couldn't go to a concert with one of them. Things you wouldn't be let in.
No, they wouldn't. No, bootleg.
So so the only people who kind of recorded that stuff is those that had maybe like a Walkman, recordable Walkman. I guess there's just countless.
I used to have one of those. It was really good too. I probably still got it somewhere.
The Sony Walkman.
I'm looking for a needle for it.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So I mean that's the times that you grew up with. They just didn't record stuff unless it was being professionally recorded. Jaco was. I mean, he's like Coltrane legend. I mean, Miles Davis. I mean, that's that level of legend there you're talking about.
Oh yeah, amazing, and what a tremendous player anyway. And I've played with some great players, Pino Palladino, and Tony Franklin, and a few others along the way. But Pino, by the way, bass player. He was with the Who for a while. I think he still is when they work. His name is Pino Palladino. He's Welsh.
Yeah, I saw him. I saw him with the Who. I saw him. I think it might have been late '90s or early 2000s, and Robert Plant opened up. And
really,
yeah, and I remember Pete Townshend saying, "Hey, can you believe Robert Plant opened up for the Who?" It was shocking. But the Who was so good, and Pino was so good.
Yeah, Pino is tremendous. I gave him his first job, or I helped him get his first job. He hadn't played bass professionally. I knew him as a guitarist. He used to play double neck, Jimmy Page style guitar, and he suddenly switched to fretless bass, and he never looked back.
Well, you could hear that in his playing, that he was a guitar player. Sometimes you could hear when guys are like that.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I don't know about that transition thing, but what a great player! What a great player!
Is it difficult?
And I was
to play
with Gary Newman. We did an album together called
this album,
Music for Chameleons. That's it. Oh, I Assassinate. No, the single was Music for Chameleons. Yeah.
I just happened to be playing that the other day, and then I looked at your bio and I said, "Wow, he's on this album," because by the time I Assassin came out, they actually put credits on records, unlike some of those Tom Jones records where you look at the albums and there's no credits.
No, not at all.
Is that frustrating for someone like you who's on the album?
Extremely. And I got a mention on Live in Las Vegas because it said, and on drums we got Chris.
On drums it says what? It says that you're on there?
On drums we got Chris.
Oh.
That's it.
Oh,
Chris.
Man. I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad. Because if I was on a Tom Jones record, every day of my life, I'd be going, "Hey, look at this record I'm on. Look at this record I'm on." But yeah, I mean, you were on his isn't his first album Along Came Jones? Is that the first album? Well, one of the first albums?
I'm not sure. It could be. Oh, I think the first one was From the Heart.
Okay.
It's called From the Heart.
But it's not unusual as on Along Came Jones, I think. Did you play on?
Might have been. I'm not sure about that.
Okay.
I'll leave that to you guys, you reporter guys.
Well, we can't.
You can tell me half my life. I can't.
Yeah, but there's stuff that we can't figure out. Like it's impossible to know who played on records like that because there's no album credits.
No, and it was so diverse anyway. Jimmy Page played on Tom Jones records.
Yeah,
and on a lot of things, Pagey was on. Now, and people just switched around, and John Paul Jones is on Tom Jones records.
I'm not sure.
I did an album called 13 Smash Hits for Tom Jones, and John Paul Jones was the bass player.
John Paul Jones was the bass player on that band. Wow!
Yeah,
look at that.
No relation, of course.
Oh no, between the Joneses. Okay, that's pretty funny. That's pretty funny. But you were in his touring band, but you also did recordings with them, I guess.
Some, yes, not all. As I say, people switched around.
Yeah.
A lot of the drumming on, was a guy called Ronnie Verrill.
Okay.
And he was a tremendous drummer. He was Ted Heath's drummer, which was a big band back in those days. And he worked with everybody. And he was the model, by the way, for Animal in The Muppets.
Oh, didn't know that.
Everybody thinks it's Keith Moon. It wasn't Keith Moon. It was Ronnie Verrill.
Look at that.
Because they did it. They recorded it in the same studios that Tom and all the session players used to be around. And Ronnie was a very animated player. He'd be up and down, before Keith Moon.
Yeah.
And
well, people didn't see that, because
they always think, who's the wireless man? Oh, Keith Moon. It's got to be a Keith Moon. No, it's not. It's Ronnie Verrill. Big band drummer, but a tremendous, and rock drummer, but tremendous drummer, absolutely tremendous. And there were other people like that were on Tom's records.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. That John Paul Jones, though, is the best one, I think.
Like, I mean, who chose who played what, on those records? Who made those
the
decisions?
booker or the man who wrote the music, wrote the dots.
Really?
Would say, "Oh, I'd like to have Ronnie play on this. Oh, I'd like to have Slade on that."
The songwriters would choose.
The writers, because you had to read music in studios in those days.
Sure.
And I wasn't very good at it, to be honest. Not sight reading, because those guys would come in and they just, like studio musicians in LA or New York, they just walk in, look at the chart and go, "Oh yeah, done that." And they'd make a few notes and that's it. Whereas I came from the way that things were worked up, and of course you can't do that with somebody like Tom Jones or Elvis Presley or something like that. It's got to be done by an arranger. So the arranger, perhaps, or the booker, or the producer, or whoever. Never the musicians. Always somebody else in the wings, like the producer.
What's the what? I understand producer and arranger, but what's the booker? Who is that?
I never heard of that before. He would book the musicians.
Okay. Oh,
and give them their £10 an hour. Well, actually, it was £10 for 3 hours.
Wow.
That's what the going rate was. Everybody got that. Jimmy Page got that.
And that was it. You wouldn't get anything if the song became a big hit. It wouldn't matter.
If it got a big hit, no, nothing. That's
frustrating.
There was a big court case years back. The drummer of Procol Harum, or at least the session guy on Whiter Shade of Pale, sued him for they didn't pay him enough, as far as I'm concerned, and he won, I think. And they had to pay him more than the session fee. I don't know how much. I can't remember, but that was now a long time ago, about 20, 30 years ago. But he won anyway. And everyone's going, "You can't do that. You've been paid." And they're going, "Well, it was a huge hit worldwide, Whiter Shade of Pale. Sure. Why shouldn't I ask for more?" You'd think they'd offer, but no, nobody would.
No.
Nobody would.
No.
Yeah.
The music business can be brutal. I mean.
Oh, it's a terrible business. It really is. It's backstabbing. You know what it's like. Yeah. You've done it yourself. It's like, I've forgotten who said it, but somebody said, music business, it's like, it was David Lee Roth, I think, but he was saying it from somebody else. Music business, terrible. It's joined today, gone, not tomorrow, gone later on today.
Yeah, I mean, because everybody wants a piece of something, and nobody wants to share anything, and it's just and all the different people you have to deal with, and agents.
Yeah, and that's what I've been doing all my life, And it's
being a sideman can be a little helpful, though, I think, because you don't have to deal with that as much. As a sideman, you don't kind of have to deal with it as much as maybe a band leader or the major star, or do you have to?
No, you don't.
Yeah.
I became like that with Tom. Whereas, we'd starved together in London,
Wow.
And literally starved. And so, and that's another part of the business, but
yeah. Yeah, musicians always want a free meal, man. I mean, offer a musician something to eat, they're not going to say no. And that's one thing I know.
No, that's true. It's got to be true most of the time.
It's like,
I've already eaten. I had 3 days ago.
I mean, I've done so many gigs.
I'll have a drink though.
Yes, well, yes. Musicians get one free drink per night, or whatever it is. But yeah, it's people don't see that side of things too. But you left Tom Jones and then you went to you formed Manfred Mann's Earth Band, right? I mean, because Manfred Mann had been a star on his own, I guess, in the '60s. And then Manfred
Yeah,
Mann's Earth Band is your
yeah,
own?
he was a big name in the music business.
Yeah, Pretty
Um,
Flamingo. He had a lot of hits.
oh, he had like, I think it was 20 number ones or something in the
Yeah.
60s, something like that, something crazy like that.
So you're going
So,
from one
he
huge
was up,
star to another.
they were up there like the Beatles were, Manfred Mann, the band Manfred Mann.
Yeah.
And they took Manfred's name, to be the band name, because it was a little bit unusual in those days. The name Manfred, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And it was his real name. He's from South Africa.
Okay.
And yeah, I co-founded Earth Band.
Yes.
And Manfred said to me, "Do you know any bass players? I know a guitarist and singer from Australia. Do you know any bass players?" I said, "Yeah." So that's where Colin Pattenden again came into the story. So we'd played together, and I knew we worked quite well. So that's it was a 4-piece in the beginning, ended up a 5-piece, but it was a 4-piece. Mick Rogers, such a good singer and guitarist. It was more like Cream on stage than it was anything else, because we jammed all the time. Could have even been Grateful Dead,
I don't think people realize that, because I mean, in the States, I mean, a lot of people knew the 60s hits, but of course it was Blinded by the Light that really, turned that band into a household name. Whose decision was to record that song?
Whose decision?
Yeah.
Funny enough, you said about band leader and all that. Yeah. This was very much a joint effort, the 4 members of the band. Manfred used to bring stuff to us, and I would say, "Don't like that much, Manfred. Sorry, but just don't think it's good enough." He brought that along. We went, "That's great," because he changed the Springsteen song so much from the original.
Yeah, sounds nothing like.
Unbelievable. He made it into a pop song, which Bruce doesn't like very much, I'm sure.
Did you ever talk to Bruce about it? Did Bruce ever say anything to you guys about? Well,
no,
did you have to get his permission to record it?
No. Once something's out, you can record. Anybody can record anything.
Okay.
Once it's out in public,
Sure. Okay.
I knew Max Weinberg a little bit, and I said I was in the firm, and he came to see the firm, and backstage, and I said, "Oh, Max, I was the drummer on Blinded by the Light." He said, "Oh, that kid was going for a few years, man."
Oh, that's funny.
Because that was a million seller all around the world. You can imagine the money that came in.
Yeah.
For the writing of that.
That was a good pick, man. That was a good choice. You guys all made a good decision.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah. But it sounded great when Manfred brought us the clink, clink, clink on the piano,
Yeah.
And it went from there. We always used to, Earth Band always used to muck in with the production and the ideas and everything. It was a band,
Yeah.
And Manfred rarely said, "Oh, I think we'll do this," or "No, I don't like your idea." Because we were creative people as well.
Sure.
And in the end, for the last few years, we'd be all hands on the mixer, because there was no automatic mixing in those days. You had to physically move the faders up and down.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, the bass is a bit loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it would go down a bit.
That's a performance, right? That's a performance in itself. Mixing back then was a performance.
Yes. Absolutely.
And
it was just.
You had to be really in tune with what was going on. You had to remember, I'd measure.
It was it was a very creative process. And I'm reminded of that doing this album, actually, Timescape album. It just reminded me, this album reminds me of an Earth Band album.
Really?
Okay. And it's very, very diverse. There are so many different angles on it. But if you know the band timeline, we've been together 10 years.
Yeah.
If you know the band, you know that there's so many different angles that we could go down and do, which is not always the case with many bands. They're usually either, they're, oh, we're a heavy metal band, we're a folk band, we don't do that sort of thing. Whereas we can do timeline could do anything.
What's
and
the
there's
perfect
no
name?
Yes, I think so. And
Because it's a reflection of your diverse career.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. I've done so many different genre in my life that, and I love to play them all.
Yeah. A true musician.
Well, I don't know about that. There's plenty of true musicians,
okay,
as well. But
well, a true musician.
I certainly like to play swing the same as I like to play AC/DC. Yeah. You've got to have swing in AC/DC as well, of course. But people don't understand that. Oh, you mean that old big band stuff going ting, 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 ting. No, you got to swing it. You got to feel it. You got to go with it. And it's very hard to define. Very hard to.
You can't. Yeah.
And it's also, I think, it's subjective. It's not objective. It's subjective. Oh, that doesn't have swing. Yes, it does. Listen, it's only words in the end. You either like it or you don't like it.
Yeah.
So
it's groove, right? It's how do you define groove?
Yeah, groove. Yeah.
Yeah.
You've got, and in the States, it's like pocket playing. Americans like to call it.
Yeah.
And playing in the pocket, and it's just got to be right there.
Yeah.
And I heard that when I was 60s, I think. First, I went, there's only one place that backbeat can go, and that's there, right there, where he is putting it.
Yeah.
And I've done that ever since. And it's a laid-back snare,
Yeah. Like, would you say it's behind the beat, or how would you define
it? It's behind, definitely
yeah.
behind.
Yeah.
So I did an album with a producer who should be nameless. And I said, oh, that's good. Who's playing drum? He said, you are. I said, no, I'm not. You've changed it, haven't you? Put it back the way it was if you want me on it. Because what you've got there is not me. You've got a metronome with no feeling whatsoever.
Yeah.
So what he'd done, of course, a lot of people are guilty of this, producers, they mix with their eyes. So they look at the screen and they go, oh, that snare drum, it's behind the beat. It's not on the beat. Snare drums have got to be on the beat. No, they don't. So they move everything from just behind the beat, where most players would put it, to right on the beat, and it just sounds wrong.
Yeah, they're using quantization and all that kind of stuff. And
yeah, no, but they do it with their eyes.
Yeah.
They mix with their eyes. They don't listen to the music. And this guy was a musician as well. And I said, you play. That's feel, man. That's what feel is. That's the definition of feel. And I don't think he knew what I was talking about. And he was a producer.
Yeah, it's sad. I mean, I understand what you're talking about a lot, and I think and you have to be in lock with the bass player when you're doing that. Like that's where that connection between because I've seen a lot of fights throughout my life between bass players and drummers. I've seen a lot of fights, and if those two people aren't locked in, then everything just falls completely apart. I think that's important, and I like that kind of feel. I feel a little behind the beat is more soulful, and I think that a soulfulness or swing or whatever you want to describe it should be in all music.
Yes,
anything it should have. It's called, like you said, it's called feeling, and and I'm sure that when you were working in AC/DC, They probably loved that. That's the way you played. That felt right.
I wouldn't.
You
I
wouldn't have
wouldn't have got
lasted.
the job
Yeah.
if I didn't have that feel in my playing. Phil
Yep.
Rudd also has it.
Yeah. That's probably why it
And
was
people
easy.
think, especially AC/DC fans, think, "Oh, you don't like the way Phil Rudd plays." I don't know. It's not that. He also swings,
Yeah.
and I've had plenty of posts saying, "Oh, Slade don't swing like Phil Rudd does." Well, know, I could beg to differ,
Yeah. You can't
but
listen to
it'll
that
do me
stuff.
no good at all. As I
No.
say, it's subjective,
Yeah.
not objective. It's the way you feel about a song or the singer. Or no, he's not as good as Bon Scott, Brian. So you're dealing with people's emotions here.
Now you had to
Uh,
audition for AC/DC, correct? Was it an audition or was it just
yes,
how does it
yes.
feel having to audition for AC/DC? I mean, is it nerve-wracking?
Well, let
Or
me say,
is there not a word that you
I
can
um
describe?
I set my kit up what I was told to by Dick, the drum tech, and Angus and Mal came in, and they put two chairs 10 feet from the bass drum, looking at me. No pressure.
Oh my God.
10 feet away.
Yeah.
Okay, Back in Black now then. Oh, all right, guys.
That was the song you auditioned. The first song was Back in Black.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
And I was told afterwards there were 100 players before me. I was the last one. So they told me this after, not or do a few
yeah,
weeks after.
that's not something you want to hear just before you start playing. No,
No,
you're
no.
number 100.
Yeah. You're number 101.
Yeah,
And by the way, they've all been top players,
yeah,
world-class players.
yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. I'll see you next Wednesday then.
Did they look
Um,
tired? Like, were they shot? Like by the time you got there, or
no,
No?
they were good. They were
Yeah.
really good.
Okay.
They were very attentive. Do you want anything? Can we do anything? All that stuff, honestly.
Yeah.
And I just played and did the best I could. I had to learn a song which nobody has ever heard, AC/DC song. At that time, nobody's ever heard. It was On Razor's Edge, Rock Your Heart Out. It's a difficult song to learn because the bass drum is so syncopated, off the beat.
Yeah. Okay.
And he said, take as long as you want. Malcolm said, take as long as you want. Just learn this best you can, and then we'll play it. It's okay. So they went away, had a cup of tea, whatever, because that's all they ever did, by the way. They didn't go and drink a bottle of whiskey.
Yeah.
Angus has never drunk in his life. So Malcolm's done a bit, but
Sure.
well documented, nothing out of school. So they went away, they came back, and I played Rock Your Heart Out. And I think that was the last thing I did. And I thought I had done really badly. And I was kicking myself,
What
saying,
made you
why
think?
did you say
What
that?
made you think that? What made you think you did?
Just, I don't know, natural preservation, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
If they say, sorry, mate, you go, oh, well, that's all right. I didn't think I did very well anyway.
Yeah, it was a bad addition. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I was so preoccupied with kicking my ass.
Yeah.
That's a Freudian slip for you.
Yeah.
I got lost. I was an hour away from my house, and I got lost. So there were no, as you say, no mobile phones back then. So I phoned my wife, and ring, how did you do? Oh, bad. I'll tell you all about it when we come back. So I got home an hour later, and she walked up the path and said, so you did bad, did you? I said, yeah, it wasn't good at all. I didn't do really well. And she said, they just phoned to say you got the gig.
Wow.
So they'd phoned my house before I'd got home.
Oh. And do you remember that moment, like when she told you that, how you felt?
I can't really because we went down the pub.
So you're going to go to the pub either way, right? If you didn't get it, or then because you got it. That's a great story. That's a great story. How did your wife feel about that? I mean, she just now, you're an AC/DC.
Yeah, yeah.
Was she happy, or was she like, oh no?
Yeah, I had a job.
Okay, so yeah, that's one way of looking at it. You had a job.
Yeah.
Were those the biggest crowds you ever played for when you were in AC/DC?
Yes, I'm sure it is 80,000 people every single night.
Yeah, so stadiums you're playing.
Yeah, all the time. They're still doing them. They're doing it right now.
Yeah.
And people say to me, "Oh, that's that band. They were bigger in the." They say in Britain, that band they were big in the 80s, weren't they? I say, you won't believe this. They're 10 times bigger than they were in the 80s now.
I think so.
Because some places we played 120. I think Austria held the record for so many people at a show for a single band. In other words, not a festival.
Wow, okay.
I think it was 120 or 150,000 people, something like that.
Was that a
just
stadium?
For one band, you know?
Yeah, that's amazing. There's not many bands that can do that.
No.
Only a handful.
Yeah. Stones or something like that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I saw the Rolling Stones recently. I saw the Rolling Stones in Jersey. And that's 80,000 people. And, you know, I thought they were great. You know, everybody has their opinion. I thought they were great. And,
you know, I saw them in the 60s. In fact, my first gig with Tom Jones, professional gig, so to speak, was in Oxford Street in London, in a club, supporting the Rolling Stones.
Oh, look at that. Wow.
And they just brought their first record out. It was called a Chuck Berry song called Come On.
Yeah.
And I was a fan, you know. And I thought they weren't very good, to be very honest. I saw them a few years ago in California, and I thought they were tremendous. Oh, no, I went with my missus to Paris, and I thought they were tremendous.
Yeah.
I really did. I thought they were great.
Well, they put on just a great show. I mean, everything about that, you know, it's like going back to your dad's days, right? As a tap dancer, as a singer, which was kind of like the way you described it, as kind of like a vaudeville type of scene. I mean, it's all about
like a what type of scene?
A vaudeville. You know, in the States we called it vaudeville.
Oh, vaudeville. Yes, that's exactly what it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you're there to entertain people, and entertaining doesn't always have to do with just the music. It's the lighting. It's everything about the show, the production.
Yep.
I think is important. And the Stones production's unbelievable. I mean,
clothes, you know, anything. Yeah.
I mean, they have the money to do it. You know,
you have to project a certain image.
Yeah.
No matter, you know, who you are.
As a drummer, you know, playing in a stadium, is that difficult to do?
I just get on with the job. That's the way I deal with it.
Just focus.
People may have. Yep. You've got to be completely and utterly focused on your job, which is keeping the beat and keeping time and getting things right.
But hearing-wise, is it hard to hear in a stadium?
It was. Years and decades back, it was almost impossible to hear. These days, I use in-ear monitors, as a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But before that, it was always a trial, because you're always going to the sound guy, you know, up with the bass, up with him, up. You know what I mean? You've done it, I'm sure.
Yeah.
And
there's times you just can't hear nothing. I mean, and you just
and it was a box that some sound came out of, and some people did a great job, and others didn't, which is the same today actually, because I use in-ears whether it's a club or a stadium. We've played a few with Timeline, not stadiums. I'm sorry, I should say festivals.
Sure.
We haven't done a stadium yet. We will.
Yeah, I'm sure you will.
I wish we would. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's just that you're still doing it. You've been doing this a long time now, right? You started early 60s.
63.
63. So it's a you're six. It's a 60-year career, right? This is a
Yes.
60-year career. And
Yes.
isn't that a beautiful thing that like you could be a musician and just keep going as long
I'm
as
amazed.
you keep
I
going?
am completely amazed. Every day I go, how old are you? And you're still doing this? It's not a good job for a grown man, is it? You know, I'm sure Mick Jagger thinks that, 80 odd.
Well, it's a good
So
job
it's,
for you. Though. It's what you love to do.
uh, you know,
But that's what
I'm
musicians
I'm
do.
amazed and I'm so proud, actually.
Yeah. Because it's who you are. Like you can't I would assume that you can't stop. As long as you can physically do it, you're not
No,
gonna
I
stop.
can't.
Yeah.
If again, yes, if it's physical, you can't walk, you can't do something, you can't, you know, then
Then you can't.
there's no point being there, I don't think. You
Right.
just got to retire as such, and whatever that means.
You'd
Usually it
probably
means
find a way
die.
though. You'd probably find a way to do something though musically. Because it's who you are.
Well, I've always been interested in art and design and all sorts of stuff. So,
Mhm.
yes, something like that. I went to art college I, and I didn't play for like 2 or 3 years. And I went to art college and learned to draw. And
How
I,
old were you
I
when you did that?
50 something, 55, something like
Okay.
that.
Mhm.
I was a mature student.
Yeah.
They've been more mature than 50 odd, but
I bet it was fun though. Because you're in there with all these young people.
I loved it. I used to go
Yeah.
every single day.
Yeah.
Every day. They closed on Sundays, so I couldn't go on Sundays. But it was a university, and I just went every single day for 3 years, 6 days a week for 3 years.
Yeah.
And I absolutely loved it. Loved it.
And it made you probably feel young, right? Young,
I
because
don't know about that. To be honest, I've always felt young.
Okay. Yeah, well, you're a rock and roll star. Yeah.
Not like Angus and Mal young, but
those guys are forever young, I guess.
I've always felt younger, and it's the drumming that does it. And you're meeting people, and I have sons, and they keep me up with what's going on in music. Oh, you got to listen to this Casa Grande guy, Dad. And who's tremendous, by the way, isn't he? In the Sepultura, isn't it? Is it? No, sorry, that's the other Brazilian band. I've forgotten.
Okay.
But Casa Grande is a tremendous new or up and coming, shall I say, drummer.
Oh, I don't know him. I have to check him out.
I think it's Brazilian.
Okay.
He's got a Spanish name, but I think he's Brazilian. So it's either Sepultura or Pantera. Maybe it's Pantera.
Okay.
And you get to appreciate the heavier stuff too. Because of my kids.
How many kids? How many kids do you have?
I have three. 2 boys and a daughter. Yeah, and my eldest son lives in Canada, actually, in Calgary.
Oh,
and
Calgary.
My daughter lives in Seattle, USA.
Did they go into music, or what did they do?
No, well, yes, both sons are drummers.
No kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've warned them.
Yeah.
Like, don't be a drummer. Learn keyboards, learn guitar. Don't be a drummer.
Less equipment to carry.
Yeah, that's true as well. All of that.
Yeah.
Learn flute.
Yes. Yeah.
Be a singer. Just show up with a microphone, or don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Use the band's microphone.
Show up at the last minute, just walking in and just, yeah, I know.
It's funny. Brian Johnson and Bon Scott, and Tom Jones, all wanted to be drummers.
Didn't know that.
And Brian said, I couldn't afford the drum kit, so I had to be a singer.
Yeah.
That's true. That's exactly what he said.
That's something.
And Tom never practiced, so.
Yeah. Wow.
But
he had that golden voice.
Tom's son now wants to be a drummer, but he, he's his manager. so he's not gonna.
Yeah,
He's not gonna suddenly change his career. I don't
he's got his
think.
hands full, and he's got a good gig. You know?
Yeah, and he's doing a great job too. He's been there for like 20 years. He's done a wonderful job.
Have you
With
talked to Tom
getting
Jones lately? Do you still stay in touch with
not
him?
lately. 5 years ago was the last time we both met in LA. I think we were there for the Grammys. AC/DC were there for the Grammys,
Okay.
and he was on the same show.
No kidding.
Yeah, this was whenever that was. 16, was it? 2016, I think.
And so, yeah, you were in AC/DC at the time, and you.
Yeah, and I saw Tom and his son Mark standing at the front of the stage watching the AC/DC play, you know, and that was a bizarre feeling. That was definitely a bizarre feeling.
Did you make eye contact? Was he smiling back at you when you were doing that, or?
You know, I honestly can't remember.
Yeah.
Because because I remember saying to the manager, how many people going to be watching tonight with the Grammys? You know, he said, "Oh, I think it's about 800 million." I said, "How many?" He said, "No, I think it's only 80 million."
Yeah.
I said, "Oh, that's okay then. 80 million I can handle. 800 million is a bit."
Does it even matter? You know, once you get past the million, I mean,
after 3,
yeah.
Oh, there's more people watching. You know,
I'm sure you have to probably not even think about it that there's that many people watching you online. I mean, the Grammys is like
you can't think about
TV.
it.
Yeah,
I think it would just go to pieces if you thought about it.
And I guess I know in those award shows everything is so tight and so timed, and there's no time to think. You're just kind of pushed around, right? Let's go, let's move. Is that how it was?
Yeah, you're on. 3, 2, 1, go.
Boom. Yeah. No time to be nervous. It's just.
No, it's a live show.
Yeah.
You know? Okay, it's been recorded for after, but that is a live show in front of millions and millions of people.
It becomes
and
muscle
then I
memory.
remember on that same show, what's the name fell over?
Oh, a big star fell over. I can't remember.
Yeah, I can't think of her name right now. Good God. Madonna.
Yeah.
Fell down the steps. And she did great. She got up and carried on, you know. But a lot of people would have said, "Oh, I'm off," and gone. But she kept the show alive.
That's show business. So, that's the ultimate show business.
That is, yeah. You drop a stick. What? You know, where'd that go? Didn't expect that.
No. The show must go on. Yeah, you know, no matter what happens, the show must go on. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the vaudeville thing, you know, and it's true today. Yeah. I'm a great believer in that.
Yeah.
And it's in my blood. It must be, you know, the showbiz thing.
Yeah.
I think it's there, you know, right from the start with my father, you know.
Yeah, you learn that because your father, I mean, he wasn't a big star. He was a working entertainer.
Yeah, he used to work in a factory in the day, and he'd be tap dancing at night.
Yeah, I mean, that's like in the club scene, you know, when you're playing covers music and you're hired to play clubs and you're playing nightclubs, you got the flu, you still got to show up. Like you something bad happens, you still got to show up. You can't, you know, the show must go on.
Yeah.
It's very hard.
There's only 6 people. Doesn't matter. You play anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. That's
You don't say, oh, well, everybody get their money back. We're not going to play in front of 6 people. You know? And you've got to. You've got to.
Play for those 6 people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's all.
You might have 12 people next time. Yeah. You know? They bring their mothers.
Well, that's, you know, that's another life of a musician. I mean, you can go from playing, you know, like you're playing AC/DC, right? You're playing for 800 million people, whatever, on Grammys nights. And then you could be playing in a small venue, you know, maybe a few months later with another group or something. I mean, that's just the life of a musician. And I think...
Yes.
I think...
Yes. And I've seen it all moving between bands, you know?
Yeah.
I've played pubs and stadiums. And there's nothing wrong with either of them.
Yeah.
You know, people are there and they paid their money, and you just got to do your job, man.
Yeah.
Concentrate on what you're doing and don't screw up.
And that's an attitude, I think, especially, being a band member. It's important to have that good attitude, that all for one, I guess, attitude. I mean, because, no matter how talented you are as a musician, you have to get along with your bandmates, right? I mean, isn't that a big part of your success, I would say, of playing with all these different groups? Is your
Yes.
personality. It's your personality, too.
It's people management.
Yeah.
It really is. And you don't have to be false about it, but you can't treat everybody the same. Oh, well, that's just me, man. You can't do that. If you're talking to somebody, you've got to talk to them the way they want to be talked to or would like to be talked to.
Sure.
And you just got to get on with every single member. Otherwise, you're lost, really. So that's a big thing for musicians or people to think about if they want to be a musician. You just got to have a good attitude towards life and everything.
Be on
Otherwise,
time.
you're going to last 2 years if you're lucky.
Yeah.
You might not even get a gig if you haven't got a good attitude.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I've been through the audition process so many times, and one of the things that we always said was, you look at somebody who's auditioning. First of all, are they on time? If they're not on time, forget about it, because you can't rely on them. And
some people are saying, if you're not 5 minutes early, you're late.
Yeah. I mean, there was a famous, I don't know how familiar you are with NFL football, but there was the famous New York Giants coach, Tom Coughlin, who would fine people for being late, and they would be on time, and say, no, being on time, it means being 15 minutes early.
What was you told me, man?
Well, I guess after you pay one fine, you to be there 15 minutes early. But I guess drummers always have to be there early, no matter what, because you
got to set up.
You got to set up. It's the most difficult instrument to set up, unless you're a keyboard player with 9 keyboards, which can be a nightmare.
Yeah, and then you got servants helping you. You got the staff. No, without the crew, we'd be dead most of the time.
Of course,
we couldn't do it.
No. And you have a good crew with your new band? That goes with you?
We have people we can rely on, put it that way.
Okay.
Yeah. And and we drive ourselves also.
Yeah.
The band, including myself.
Yeah.
We all take turns.
Okay. So you drive together?
Yeah, we're all in a van.
Oh, in a van.
Like the old days.
Like the old days.
Yeah. I love it. I love it.
Yeah. There's something that feels good about that, right?
It feels real, and then you get to the show, everybody unloads, and it gets set up, magically, always magically.
Yeah.
And I think we can get unloaded and set up, ready to play in an hour and a half, I think, which is really good going.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Everybody mucks in,
Sure. I mean, there's a lot. There's all the equipment in that van too.
Yep.
So everything's in there. It's all you guys in one van and van. And
if there's any extra people, they go in their car.
Okay. And how many shows are you doing? Are you doing like monthly shows, weekly shows?
There's a lot of weekends that are full, but we used to do a lot more. Before COVID, we were really doing well, and then suddenly COVID hit, and things changed completely.
Yeah, it killed everybody.
It's still not bad, but we were in Poland like 2 months ago, and we were in Paris just last Saturday. So we get around.
Yeah.
All over the place, all over the world. We've done Chechnya and all the Eastern Bloc places. And
do you have a favorite city to play, or just a favorite city to go to?
No, not really. I have some favorite ones not to play, but
okay.
Story.
Okay, yeah. I guess for various reasons.
Yeah, which are censored.
Do you find the audiences in Europe different from the audiences in the States, or are they the same?
It depends where you go. Germany is very, very much like the States.
Okay.
France, you've got to prove yourself to them.
A little tougher, yeah.
Yeah, and when they warm to you, they warm to you. You know, they're there along with everybody else. But you need to prove yourself first.
Sure, of course.
So,
that's interesting.
But pretty much everywhere else is virtually the same. You know, within reason. There's national characteristics that come out. You know,
Yeah.
but apart from that, you know, people are people, the way I see it. And I love traveling and meeting people, actually.
I think you're so right. When you say people are people, I think it's just some people move faster or slower. Some people have more patience or less patience. I think that's really the only differences, that I see.
It's people, not countries.
Yeah.
Not like all the Germans are this and the French are this and it's people. People are like that.
That's a really good point. I wish everybody understood that. Around the world.
Yeah, it'd be a different world, wouldn't it?
It'd be a different world, yeah. Because I'm from New York and people think that we're all like murderers and killers here. And we're just as sweet as somebody, I don't know, in Calgary or Brazil. I mean, it's everybody, or people are just people. We all have our own cultures. We all have our own, sayings or dialects or style. But in the end, we're all human beings. And,
yes.
And you're involved in the greatest universal language of all time, with music.
Yeah, absolutely. I've always said that. Yeah. And a friend of mine in LA, Terry Luce, he's a singer. And he said, "Hey, man, did you realize they pay us to travel?" And he's French Spanish, so he comes from Europe, but he's American now, But, they pay us to travel. And I love traveling.
And you've traveled everywhere. I mean, you've played Moscow, right? I read.
Yeah. In fact, Timeline played in Moscow.
Really? When did you play with Timeline in Moscow?
About 7 years ago, maybe. We played for the tennis. They had a tennis tournament there.
Oh, okay, sure. Is it more difficult to get into Moscow than it is to make Paris or, Germany? Is there any difference?
No, we were getting the visas for Moscow because you need visas.
Sure.
And they said, "Oh, we need details of all your bank accounts and, everything, everybody's bank account, and we want and the name of your firstborn and all that." And I said, "Come on, guys, let's forget it." They went, "Oh, it's okay. Here's your visa."
Wow, look at that. You called their bluff.
Yeah.
Look at you.
we want to know your
were they nervous?
Best friend.
Did they think you were spies or something? I mean, why would they ask?
Nah, that's the way it's, sometimes that's the way the Russians are, because they're told to be that way,
Sure.
They are. We have a friend who he was brought up in East Germany, I should say, when the wall was up and everything.
Sure.
He's a friend of ours now. He's a physicist, and he tells us some stories. He's also in the army, and he speaks Russian, and because he had to, of course.
Of course. Yeah.
And German, because that's how he was brought up, German, But he was in a Russian-controlled area, so he had to speak Russian. So he learned that as well. And he speaks a couple of other languages. And he was brought up doing that because that's the way they roll over there.
Yeah.
You have to go with the flow. You have to fit in. Otherwise, you don't fit in, and suddenly you're gone.
Yeah.
I don't know where you go, but you've gone somewhere.
That's not good for you.
No.
Yeah.
I don't want to go to Ukraine and fight. Why then?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I mean, there's a lot of rock fans over there. There's a lot of music fans over there, and
I played Russia many times. I got some friends there in a band, and I used to go there and play a lot. So I know what it's like there.
yeah,
I didn't just drop in with AC/DC and
right.
you know, and go, oh, I don't like this over here, you know. But I could choose. The first time we went, AC/DC, I had to choose between a blanket on my bed or a blanket on the window.
Wow, that's an interesting choice.
And it was a really good hotel, like a Hyatt or something, you know.
Yeah.
It was the best one in Moscow for AC/DC, you know. And they were all like that.
Hmm.
And, you know, we had an interpreter when we went there. And at the end of it, Cliff gave him his old blue jeans. The guy just stood there. He was in tears. He couldn't believe, because jeans were like so sought after, you know, blue jeans.
Of course, yeah.
Levi's.
Yes, that's what I've heard.
He was standing there in tears holding this Cliff's old jeans, you know. Had just been gifted to him.
You know,
so that's the level of, I don't know what.
I had a store for a while that sold records, and I used to sell so many records to the Russian Federation. I mean, mailing them over all the time. I was
really?
Like, yeah. I mean, people would over there. They would buy huge lots of records, huge lots.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I tried getting through the wall in mid-60s, and there was a Checkpoint Charlie. You could go across Checkpoint Charlie. Our bass player, Tom Jones's bass player, had just bought a Little Richard record on the way to the wall. So we went through, and they went, you can't take that with you.
Wow.
So they took it. I wonder what they did with it. I'm sure they were going to give it back to him when he came out, but of course they forgot to give it back to him.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, because to them...
That was like gold dust, you know, a Little Richard record.
Of course, yeah. I guess, I mean, that's why I had, you know, I had a recording studio, and I was opening up a record store, and I had so many albums, and so I just started selling them on eBay, and I just noticed that, you know, there were people in Russia that would buy huge lots of albums, and it would take months to get there, and I was always very nervous if they were going to get there or not.
Yeah.
You know, but they always did.
Yeah.
And that
it's funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
How that system works, I don't know. They usually get lost in the post, don't they?
Yeah. I mean, I could send something to England and be there in a day or two, you know, no problem.
Yeah.
But with, at the time, and this, I don't know, maybe this is 10 years ago, it would take a while to get over there. A long time. But it always did, and that always surprised me. And I was always very happy, you know, because I talked to a lot of people over there, you know, through email correspondence, and they would say that it was very, very difficult to get, you know, albums, you know, over in
course. Russia. Yeah, it always has been and always will be. But, you know, the people themselves, believe it or not, they're really warm people. They're really nice people. People in the street, I mean.
Yeah.
But politicians just feed them rubbish.
And it's sad, because it's important to know that the people there are such, you know, are wonderful people. And I know that from the correspondence I've had with many of them. But like you said, things get in the way, and then people get blinded by stuff.
Politics get in the way.
How was the food, man? How was the food in Moscow? Was it good?
Do you like sausage, or would you like sausage?
Okay, so I guess there was a lot of sausage.
You can have this sausage or that sausage. Yeah. What's the difference? No, there's no difference.
So
that one.
That's interesting. Like a couple of years ago, me and my son went on a tour of Europe, and I was blown away by how good the food was in Germany. I mean, they had great sausage in Germany, but
everywhere has its, you know, France, I'm sorry to say this about the French, or the French. France has got this reputation for tremendous food. Well, in fact, Italy, I think, is the best food.
Yeah, that's what you like, huh?
Yeah.
Italy. Any
And
particular place in Italy that you think has the best
no,
food, or just all around?
no, just a few places. So
Yeah,
there's, yeah, and things have changed so much though these days, because nobody wants to pay a lot of money for food these days. Of
yeah,
course not. Who does? But um, it's they've they've cheapened things up, shall I say? They give you the cheapest cuts because the chefs themselves have got to buy it, and they
yeah.
got to keep their restaurant going.
Sure,
So
sure.
they got to make a profit.
Yeah.
So all these grand things.
And the pandemic killed everybody. It hurt so many people. It hurt so many
Yeah,
restaurants. I mean, it really did.
absolutely. Absolutely. It was terrible.
I
It
mean,
is terrible. Pubs and clubs and restaurants are closing in Britain 10 a
it's
day or something.
that's so sad.
It is. It's terrible.
It's tough for so many people who make a living in that scene, from musicians to
In hospitality and
yeah,
musicians,
yeah,
yes,
yeah,
because there's no places to play anymore.
yeah,
And they won't pay any money, very
yeah,
little. So
yeah,
especially if you're a struggling band, you play for nothing. In fact, it's rife. It was rife before pandemic, but pay to play,
yeah. And that's
you can, and people don't get it. You go, yeah, you can come and play here, but you got to sell 200 tickets, and you must give us the money for 200 tickets before you set anything up. So in other words, if you've got 10 friends, not 200, you got to stump up the money.
to play my club. That burns me, and that's
Yeah,
that's totally taking advantage of musicians, and
yeah,
that's I'm coming from the club scene. I mean, the way I always made a living was having a good agent, because the agents took care of that. If you had a good agent, you got paid. If you tried
yeah,
playing the club on your own, bad things were going to happen.
nothing.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're going to mess with you. But if you had an agent, especially a powerful agent, and especially a powerful agent in New York, who people would
yeah,
mess with, that's what you did. And that's what I always tell younger people, that you have to have the right people involved to be able to
yeah.
make a
But then
living.
you first of all, you got to get them interested
Yeah. Oh,
in
yeah.
you. They got to like your band.
Yeah.
You know, Getting them to see a show is, uh, you know, enough in itself.
Yeah.
If you get an agent or a manager to come to see your show, you're halfway there.
Absolutely. Yeah. You have to get the agent. In the old days, it was a little easier because there was so much work, and, agents kind of needed groups and agents kind of needed bands. But nowadays, like you're saying, with clubs closing down, it's just become, I guess, much more difficult for anybody to make a living in the music business.
Yeah,
And
it's tough, man. It's tough enough. It was tough enough back then, wasn't it?
yeah,
But now it's virtually impossible
yeah,
to get anything. Young people, they could be the greatest guitarists in the world, but nobody's going to go and see them.
yeah.
That's the awful thing.
That's why a lot of
And they
younger
could
kids.
be the greatest guitarists in the world.
Well, that's why a lot of younger kids are, the younger musicians are turning to social media like TikTok and YouTube, and just trying to show
Yeah,
themselves in those things,
make an impression.
make an
Yeah,
impression somehow. But you don't learn, how to perform in front of a video camera. You have to be in front of an audience. You have to learn how to.
no, you can't learn to perform unless you're performing
Yes, yes.
in front of people.
And it takes time.
Oh, they didn't like that one. Oh,
Yeah, yeah,
oh, well, what did I say? Oh, did I say that? Oh, I didn't mean that.
yeah.
I didn't mean to tell them their football team was crap. I'm sorry I did that. Sorry,
Yeah.
everybody. Too
Yeah.
late.
Oh, yeah, it does. It takes time to learn the art of performing, and also just get into that mode of being able to relax, where you're on muscle memory. I'm sure when you played the Grammys and you have all that pressure on you, a lot of muscle memory, I'm sure, kicks in. Because you're playing.
Absolutely. That's
You
what it's
need
all
that.
about.
Yeah. If you don't have that, you're in trouble,
Yeah.
because it's just too much distractions.
Absolutely. There's so many things that can go wrong.
Yeah.
And as the saying goes, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Yeah. And so that's where practice comes in. That's where preparation comes in. That's where knowing your stuff comes in, because it's tough.
Yes.
It's tough to perform. And who knows that
Yes.
better than you? I mean, you've played with the biggest acts of all time. You've stood on stage with, rock gods, and you've become a rock god yourself. I mean,
No, that's one thing I am not. I always say, I'm a rock musician.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
there's a big difference between that and being a rock star. You can be a rock star and know just 3 chords.
Sure. Well, a lot of it's
and you don't know any others.
I mean, I remember being 15 years old and seeing Led Zeppelin in New York City at the Garden, and to me that was like seeing God. I mean, it was just like seeing Led Zeppelin in 1976 as a 15-year-old kid was like, it was a religious experience. I mean, just to see something like that.
It would have been. I saw them without Bonham, of course, with his son playing drums at a reunion they did.
Oh yeah, the Celebration Day reunion, right? Was that the Atlantic Records one?
And I was excited.
Yeah,
I was excited. I was like a kid,
Meanwhile, you played with Jimmy Page. Yeah,
I know. Yeah, this was after I played with Pagey, but this was Led Zeppelin, man.
Yeah. Thanks for saying that.
I played with John Paul Jones,
Yeah.
And Jimmy Page, and I'd met Robert Plant, and all nice people actually. But there they were Led Zeppelin.
Yes.
They weren't Pagey, Plant, and Jones.
Yeah.
They was Led Zeppelin. There they are on stage in front of you.
It's bigger than life. I mean, that band was bigger than life. I mean, there's no other way to describe seeing Led Zeppelin unless you were there and understood that.
Yeah.
It wasn't about if somebody played a wrong note or if somebody did something wrong or hit a wrong note. It was about just seeing Led Zeppelin. And,
and they didn't hit any wrong notes, by the way.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
They were great.
And it's really wonderful to hear you say that, because you're someone who played, like you just said, you was in a band with Jimmy Page, and you still feel that.
Yeah.
Zeppelin, that excitement.
Yeah. I mean, sitting behind me was Billy Joel,
Well, look at that.
Right behind me.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. That's something. I mean, did you ever, like when you were in the Firm, did you ever just say and look over and say, that's Jimmy Page, on stage? Or was it just, he's
yes, I did sometimes, yes.
Yeah. How could you not, right?
And it's like,
I mean, that's honest.
A bit,
That's honest. A lot of guys wouldn't say that, That's honest. Just.
Well, he's he is a rock star.
Yeah.
I am not. He is,
Yeah.
I met Dave Grohl, and he was great. He was such a natural, nice guy, genuinely nice.
Yeah.
And nobody can be as nice as Dave. Well, David Gilmour actually was also very, very nice as a person. I was with him for a year, on tour on a bus. And, you can't hide anything when you're on a bus with people.
There must be some stories.
He was just tremendous as a person. He's very honest. He's very generous with both his money and his time. He is what you see, you get, Same with Dave Grohl, actually. Just ordinary, nice, good, and great players.
So, I mean, when you were touring with David Gilmour, was he doing Floyd stuff too, or was it just his solo music that he was doing on that tour?
No, we used to do Floyd stuff.
Yeah.
Some, yeah.
Yeah.
And Run Like Hell, I remember, and Comfortably Numb, and all those. And did we do Comfortably Numb with Timeline, actually, because our guitarist is so good. He can do a good job. Nobody can be David Gilmour, who can be, except David Gilmour.
Yeah.
But he does a great job, and everybody's mesmerized.
Did Gilmore did he tell you what parts to play, or did he just said, all right, just come up with your own groove, or how did that
No,
work?
he didn't tell me anything parts to play. I wish he had, actually, because I kept sort of fishing for some advice. How do you want the... Well, he would just play, man, just play.
Wow.
And that's how the whole band were,
Just do your own
And it was
thing.
a really good band.
Yeah. Well, he probably knew that you were going to just come up with something that he was going to love anyway, so he probably didn't want to get in your way. He probably didn't want to get in your way. Maybe he just thought it was best for you to do what came natural to you.
Count Basie never used to take the music away from the drummer.
I didn't know.
He used to go to the stand and take the music off and say, just play, man, just play. Yeah. It's Count Basie.
I mean, that's the hallmark of a great band leader, to let the musicians be who they are. Because a musician's going to play the best they can.
Yeah, you ain't going to screw it up, are you, on purpose?
Right. I mean, if you tell a player, no, do it this way, it might be a way that player's not comfortable playing. And then you're actually hurting the band. So maybe that's something he recognized. I don't know. I'm not in the head of David Gilmour. But just as a musician.
Yeah, no, me. I know him very well, but I'm not inside his head. But
was that the same way with Jimmy Page and Paul Rodgers and the Firm? Was it?
Yeah, they didn't. Well, Paul is a bit of a drummer anyway, so sometimes he sat down and said, "It's this,"
Okay.
It goes boom bap, boom bap, boom bap. But that didn't happen very often. I think once. Possibly twice. That's all.
Did it ever happen when you thought? Well, did it ever happen where you thought, no, that's not right. I'd rather do it my way.
No, it never went that way. I thought, well, that works. I'll play it like that.
And best to keep everybody happy.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah.
And it's his song. He wrote the song. Well, he knows how it. Yeah. Sometimes if you say, well, how's it go then? What's the feel of it? Is it in 2, 4, whatever? He wrote, Paul Rodgers wrote a song for the Firm he wrote the lyrics for Midnight Moonlight. It's a song called Midnight Moonlight. And Pagey came up with the guitar and Paul wrote the song. And, I said, you did a great job on those lyrics and he said, I said, especially because it's in 5/4. Paul went, what? And I said, yes, in 5/4. He said, no wonder it was so bloody difficult to write.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. He's an amazing singer. Paul.
Oh, yeah.
I love him.
Great
I thought it was interesting when he joined Queen. What did you think of that when Paul Rodgers joined Queen?
I saw them. Okay. I thought it was Paul singing Queen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I guess that's what it was. Yeah.
Yeah. It wasn't Freddie Mercury.
Yeah.
How could it be?
No. I mean, Adam is kind of doing Freddie Mercury, but Paul did his own thing, which I thought was the right thing to do.
Yeah, well, he can't do it any other way, to be honest. Like you said earlier on, you play the way you are.
Yeah.
Or the way your style is. And Paul has that style.
Yeah.
And I thought it sort of worked.
But
again, people, Paul Rodgers is not Freddie Mercury. And he never can be. Of course he bloody can't.
Right. Well, I guess that's why they called it Paul Rodgers and Queen. I think they were probably in tune to that.
Yeah, I can see what you mean. Yeah.
That you just couldn't do Queen. I mean, I saw Queen in '76, and Freddie Mercury was just phenomenal. I mean, I saw the Bohemian Rhapsody tour, and it was just phenomenal stuff. Never heard a singer like that before in my life.
No, and all the vocal backings was him as well, by the way.
Yeah, those guys were so brilliant. Did you ever meet them before, Queen? Ever work with any of them?
Yeah, yeah. Earth Band supported them in Cardiff Castle once.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, they were great.
Yeah. Yeah. Great drummer too, Roger Taylor. I like Roger Taylor.
Yeah, yeah.
I liked his songs. But you know, I've kept you a long time, almost 2 hours.
Yeah, because he wrote a few of the hits, you know.
Yeah.
And people don't know that. They think it's all Freddie Mercury.
No.
A drummer writing a hit song, you got to be kidding. That just isn't that. It don't compute.
Yeah.
It don't compute.
Yeah. Well, you know.
And he's got a good voice himself.
Yeah, I like his voice. I liked his band, The Cross, too, that he had put together. He had this.
Oh, I don't know that.
Yeah, he had put a band called The Cross together. They put a couple albums out, and they were pretty enjoyable records. I mean, it sounded like, you know, the Roger Taylor songs on every Queen album. You know, that's the sound. Yeah. So if you were a fan of his songs, you know, I'm in Love with My Car, and so many other ones, The Cross sounded like those songs.
Oh, wow. I'll have a listen.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know. I honestly did not know that. I'm in the business, you know.
Well, look at that. Now I feel like I've done something now, something special.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, I mean, I've learned so much from listening to you and the music you've done, and so now I've contributed a little bit. You know, in a very minor
well, thank
way.
you for that.
Yeah.
No, well, I'll have a listen. I'm intrigued now.
Sure, Chris.
Because I think his songs are really good.
Yeah. Yeah.
And not a lot of people know that he wrote them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I think he wrote Radio Gaga as well, didn't he? Was it Radio?
I'm not 100% sure. I would have to look that up.
Neither am I. Neither am I.
Which was probably their last big hit, Radio Gaga. I think that was like their last big hit was Radio Gaga.
Ah.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's the.
I thought they were a really good band, but I'm not au fait with what they do, you know, from year to year. So, you know,
I saw them.
I met them.
Yeah.
I met them once or twice, but that's all. I mean, it was just hello and have a drink, you know.
When I saw them, Thin Lizzy opened up for them, which was another fantastic band, Thin Lizzy.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Real pure, organic sounding. We've interviewed a few people from the band over the years.
Was Line Up with them then or not?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I saw when Boys Are Back in Town came out.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's a great song, that.
Great song. I mean, but all their albums just great songs, and I don't think they were ever as big in the States as they were, of course, in Ireland or maybe Europe. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah, they were big in Europe.
Yeah. Yeah, they weren't as big here as they were over there. I mean, of course, they were big when The Boys Are Back in Town was a #1 single. But I love so much of their other stuff, and was always a big fan. Always a big fan of. I mean, I'm half Irish, so there's this Celtic thing about me that I just kind of go towards, and I that in their music, you know.
Yeah,
something that you do.
I like Guinness too.
Yeah. Well, Chris, listen, I've kept you very, very long here, and I appreciate all the time you've given me. And it was
not at all. I've enjoyed it. It was a nice, relaxed chat, actually.
Yeah.
I hope we can make something out of it.
Oh, the whole thing. I mean, it's, you know, to me, it's better to have a conversation than an interview. I think it's more enjoyable that way. You know,
you have to get your scissors out and do some editing, I think.
No, I don't think so. I think, you know, I recently interviewed Ian Pace, and
I know Ian.
Yeah,
good.
And it was very similar to this, and he loved it, and people loved it. People liked this. People like just listening to two people talking about music, and I know I do. Yeah. I enjoy it. And
I first met Ian with Earth Band in Australia.
Okay.
And Free was on the bill. Paul Rogers was with Free at that time. Yeah, they were opening the show.
Wow.
Earth Band second, Deep Purple top of the bill.
Wow. Yeah, and both you guys are still rocking hard, man. You both are still rocking hard. You're still out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw him a few years ago in Sardinia, I think it was, something like that. And because we do festivals, same festivals sometimes. I went skiing with Purple once.
You went skiing with them? Oh, that must have been fun.
and Gilmore, and also Mick Ralphs from Bad Company.
Oh, you guys went skiing together?
Yeah.
Who was the best skier? I have to ask that. Was anybody extraordinary?
I honestly can't remember. It wasn't me. I know that. Oh, I got cramp.
Oh, look at that.
Such a long interview.
You're getting cramps.
Drummer's affliction. I'm sorry.
It's all right.
Oh, God. It gets painful, too. It's terrible when you wake up in the morning with cramp. That's the drummer's syndrome. Wake up screaming with cramp in your legs after the gig, you know.
What do you do for that? Like, what do you do for a cramp?
Scream.
Scream.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Chris, maybe I should let you go so you can move around a little, and because now I'm inflicting a physical punishment on you, and I don't mean to do that.
All right, man. No, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah. And so
let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, I would love to do that, and I'll make sure to promote your album, the new one. What's it called?
Timescape.
Timescape. Yeah.
Chris Slade Timeline.
We'll get some links to your site and talk all
We're
about
on Facebook, actually.
Yeah. Well, I'll make sure that all that's in the article, and so this will be in the article, and it'll be posted on all the different social media sites. It'll get a lot of attention. It will.
Don't put, if you don't mind me saying to you, don't put Chris Slade Official on tags, because I don't really do a lot with that.
Okay.
My son runs it.
Okay.
My youngest son.
I'm just going to write Chris Slade. That's okay?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. Okay.
Chris, the Chris Slade Timeline's on Facebook, and there is chrisslade.com.
Okay. Sure.
So
they'll all hear that now.
Yeah.
In the interview, and I'll make sure to put the links in there for you.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks very much.
And wow, it's got to be about 5 o'clock there now in England.
Wow, right. I've got an interview anytime now.
Oh no. Okay. Well, I got to go to it's almost noon here. It's time to get some pizza, some good New York pizza.
Right.
Which I couldn't find when I was in London. That was the one thing I could not find in London was good New York pizza.
No, that's difficult in London.
I did find some good fish and chips. But
yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. But listen, I like to talk, so I'll keep you talking unless I just stop this. So,
right.
And I appreciate it. I appreciate it once again.
I better go right now because I've got to call the States right now.
Okay.
I know this is Zoom, but I got to phone the States.
Sure. All right.
Well, all the best.
Care, my friend.
Thanks very much. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, Chris.
Bye
Thank
for
you
now.
very much. My too. It was my pleasure. Thank you.